Good morning, friends. We have seen in our last discussion on Swamiji's talk on Practical Vedanta, part 1. Today we are going to touch the talk on Practical Vedanta, part 2, which was delivered in London on 12th of November 1896. In this, Swamiji, through 3 stories from Upanishad, gives a very strong principles of Practical Vedanta and narrates them in such a way which can be understood easily what is the essence of Practical Vedanta. The first one, Swamiji says, he is talking from the very ancient story from the Upanishad called Chandogya Upanishad, which tells how knowledge came to a boy. Though the form of the story is very crude, but it has got a strong principle. Here's the story. It says, a young boy said to his mother, I am going to study the Vedas. Tell me the name of my father and my caste. Unquote. The mother was not a married woman. In India, the child of a woman who has not been married is considered an outcast. He is not recognized by society and is not entitled to study the Vedas. So the poor mother said, my child, I do not know your family name. I was in service and served in different places. I do not know who your father is, but my name is Jabala and your name is Satyakam. The little child went to a sage and asked to be taken as a student. The sage, as per the norms, asked him, what is the name of your father and what is your caste? The boy repeated to him what he had heard from his mother. The sage at once said, none but a Brahmin could speak such a damaging truth about himself. You are a Brahmin boy and I will teach you. You have not swerved from the truth. So he kept the boy with him and educated him. Now in India those days the peculiar methods of education were there in ancient times. This teacher gave Satyakama 400 cows and asked him, when this cow herd become 1,000 in the forest, you can come back. So Satyakama went. After a few years in forest, one day Satyakama heard a big bull saying that we are 1,000 now, take us back to your teacher. I will teach you a little of Brahman. Say on, sir, said Satyakama. Then the bull said, the east is a part of the Lord, so is the west, so is the north, so is the south. The 4 cardinal points are the 4 parts of Brahman. Fire will also teach you something of Brahman. And fire is a great symbol in those days. And every student had to procure fire and make offerings in the evening. So on the following day, Satyakama started for his guru's house, and when in the evening he had performed his oblation and worshipped at the fire, and was sitting near it, he heard a voice came from the fire. O Satyakama, speak, Lord, said the Satyakama. O Satyakama, I am come to teach you a little of Brahman. This earth is a portion of that Brahman. The sky and the heaven are portions of it. The ocean is a part of that Brahman. Then the fire said that a certain bird would also teach him something. Satyakama continued his journey, and on the next day when he had performed his evening service, a swan came to him and said, I will teach you something about Brahman. This fire is which you worship, O Satyakama, is a part of that Brahman. The sun is part of, the moon is a part, the lightning is a part of that Brahman. A bird called Madgu will tell you more about it later. The next evening, the bird came and in a similar voice told Satyakama, I'll tell you something about Brahman. Breath is a part of Brahman, sight is a part, hearing is a part, the mind is a part. The boy arrived at his teacher's plate and presented himself before him with due reverence. No sooner had the teacher seen this disciple than he remarked, Satyakama, thy face shines like that of a knower of Brahman. Who then has taught you all this? Beings other than men, replied Satyakama. But I wish that you should teach me, sir, for I have heard from men like you that knowledge which is learned from a guru alone leads to a supreme good. Then the sage taught him, and the same knowledge which he had received from the gods, and nothing was left out, yea, nothing was left out. Now, apart from the allegories of what the bull, the fire, the birds taught, we see the tendency of the thought and the direction in which it was coming in those days. Swami is saying, though this boy was hearing, it seems the source of hearing all the truths are from outside, actually he was getting it from inside. The This is the first idea. He was interpreting the voice is coming from the external world, while all the time it was within him. The second idea that we learned from this is that of making the knowledge of the Brahman practical. The world is always seeking the practical possibilities of religion, and we find in these stories how it was becoming more and more practical every day. The truth was shown through everything with which the students are familiar. The fire they were worshipping was Brahman, the earth was a part of Brahman, and so on. The next story belongs to Upakoshala Kamalayana, a disciple of this Satyakama. We went to be taught by him and dwelt with him for some time. Now Satyakama went away on a journey, and the student became very downhearted. And when the teacher's wife came and asked him why he was not eating, the boy said, "I am too unhappy to eat." Then a voice came from the fire he was worshipping, saying, "This life is Brahman, Brahman is ether, and Brahman is happiness. No Brahman." "I know, sir," the boy replied, "that life is Brahman, but that it is ether and happiness I do not know." Then it explained that the two words, ether and happiness, signified one thing in reality, that is, the sentient ether that resides in the heart. It is pure intelligence. So it taught him Brahman is life as the ether is in the heart. Then the fire taught him, this earth, food, fire and sun you worship are forms of Brahman. The person that is seen in the sun, I am he. He who knows this and meditates on him, all sins vanish and he has long life and becomes happy. He who lives in the cardinal points, the moon, the stars and the neighbor and the water, I am he. He who lives in this life, the ether, the heavens and the lightning, I am he. Here too we see the same idea of practical religion. The things which we are worshipping, such as fire, the moon, the sun and all those things, are very familiar to us. Then they form the subject of the stories which explain them and give them a higher meaning. And this is the real, very practical side of Vedanta. It does not destroy the world, but explains that. It does not destroy the person, but it explains to him. It does not destroy the individuality, but it explains it by showing the real individuality. It does not show that this world is vain and does not exist, but it says, understand what this world is, so that it may not hurt you. The voice did not say to Upakoshala that the fire which he was worshipping, or the sun, or the moon, or the lightning, or anything else, was all wrong. But it showed him that the same spirit with which he was inside, the sun and the moon and lightning, the fire and the earth, was in him, so that everlasting everything became transformed, as it were, in the eyes of Upakoshala. The earth became transformed, life became transformed, the sun and the moon, the stars, lightning, everything became transformed, and the real nature was not known. The theme of Vedanta is to see Lord in everything, to see things in their real nature, not as they appear to be. Then another lesson is taught in Upanishads. What is that? He who shines through the eyes of his Brahman, he is the beautiful one, he is the shining one, he shines in all these words. A certain peculiar light, a commentator says, which comes to the pure man, is what it meant by the light in the eyes. And it is said that when a man is pure, such a light will shine in his eyes. That light belongs to the soul within which everything is everywhere. The same light which shines in the planets, in the stars and the suns. Now, Swamiji is giving the third story, which is again coming from Upanishads only. It is the story of Shvetaketu, who went to the king of the Panchālas, and the king asked him, do you know where the people go when they die? Do you know how they come back? Do you know why the other world does not become full? The boy replied that he did not know. Then he went to his father and asked him these questions. Father said he cannot answer. It's because he does not know. So he went back to king, and the king told that this knowledge was never known to the priest. It was only with the kings, and that was the reason why kings rule the world. This man stayed with the king for some time, for the king said, you teach him. The other world, O Gautama, is the fire. The sun is in its fuel. The rays are smoke, the day is the flame, the moon is in the embers, and the stars are the sparks. In this fire, the gods pour libation of faith, and from this libation, King Soma is born. So on it goes. He did not make oblation to that little fire. The whole world is that fire. And this oblation, this worship is continually going on. The gods and the angels and everybody is worshipping it. Man is the greatest symbol of fire, the body of man. Here also we see that the ideal becoming practical and Brahman is seen in everything. The principle that underlies all these stories is that invented symbolism may be good and helpful, but already better symbols exist than any we can invent. You may invent an image through which to worship God, but a better image already exists, the living man. You may build a temple in which to worship God, and that may be good, but a better one, a much higher one, already exists, the human body. This is a wonderful way of Swamiji explaining the practical Vedanta aspect, the true nature of Brahman. He is saying that you remember that the Vedas have two parts, the ceremonial and knowledge portions. In ceremonial portions, many issues are there, so you keep on doing one by one. Swami is saying, here is a symbol of fire. They said, very good, but here is another symbol, the earth. What a grand symbol. Here is this little temple, but the whole universe is a temple. A man can worship anywhere. There are the peculiar figures that men draw on the earth, and there are the altars. But there is the greatest of altars, the living, the conscious human body. And to worship at this altar is far higher than the worship of day-to-day symbols. So this is very clearly saying that the ceremonial aspect of the Vedas are not much meaningful or possibly way of this. His Swamiji is coming, saying that he is now come to peculiar doctrine, and he is himself admitting that he may not be knowing that. And he is saying, if you can make it out, please let me know. What is that? A man dies who has by meditation purified himself and got knowledge. He first goes to light, then from light to day, from day to the light half of the moon, and from that to the 6 months when the sun goes to the north, from that to the year, from the year to the sun, from the sun to the moon, from the moon to the lightning, and when he comes to the sphere of lightning, he meets a person who is not human, and the person leads him to the unconditioned Brahman. This is the way of the gods. When sages and wise persons die, they go that way and they do not return. What is meant by this month and year and all these things, no one understands clearly. Each one gives their own interpretation. What is meant by going to the world of the moon and the sun, this person comes to help the soul after it has reached the spheres of lightning. No one knows. There is an idea among the Hindus that the moon is a place where life exists. And we shall see how life has come from there. Those that have not attained to the knowledge but have done good work in this life first go, when they die, through smoke, then to night, then to the dark 15 days, then to the 6 months when the sun goes to the south, and from that they go to the region of their forefathers, then to the ether, then to the region of the moon, and then becomes the food of the gods. And later are born as gods and live there so long as their good works still permit. So this is the way Swamiji is saying. That's why the earth is neither full nor empty. Several ideas Swamiji is saying can get from these, and later on perhaps we shall be able to understand it better. The last part of which deals with how those who have been in heaven return is clearer perhaps than the first part. But the whole idea seems to be this, that there is no permanent heaven without realizing God. Out of this comes one basic idea of the Vedanta, that everything which has name and form is transient. This earth is transient because it has name and form. And so the heavens must be transient because there also name and form remains. Heaven which is eternal will be contracted in terms, because everything that has name and form, Nama Rupa, must begin in time, exist in time, and in time. These are the settled doctrines of the Vedanta, and as such the heavens are given up. We have seen in Samhita that the idea of heaven was not that it was eternal, much the same as is prevalent in Mohammedans Christians. The Mohammedans concretize it as a little more. They say it is a place where there are gardens beneath which rivers run. In desert of Arabia, water is very desirable. So the Mohammedans always conceives of his heaven as containing much water. As Swami is saying, I was born in a country where there are 6 months of rain every year. So I should think of heaven, I suppose, as a dry place. And so also would be the English people. So there's a way he is saying these are the cases where truth is not comfortable until it reaches the climax. Human nature is very conservative. It does something, and having once done that, finds it hard to get out of it. The mind will not receive new thoughts because they bring discomfort. In the Upanishads, we see a tremendous departure made. It is declared that these heavens in which men live with the ancestors after death cannot be permanent, saying that everything which has name and form must die. If there are heavens with forms, these heavens must vanish in course of time. They must maybe millions of years, but there must come a time when they'll have to go. With this idea came another, that these souls must come back to earth, and the heavens are places where they enjoy the results of their good work, and after these effects are finished, they come back into this earth again. One thing is clear from this, that mankind had a perception of the philosophy of causation even at the earlier time. Later on we'll see how our philosophers bring that out in the language of philosophy and logic, but here it is most important, the language of children. One thing you may remark in reading these books, that it is all internal perception. If you ask me if this can be practical, my answer is it has been practical first and philosophical next. You can see the first things have been perceived and realized and then written. This world spoke to the early thinkers. Birds spoke to them, animals spoke to them, and so on and so forth. Not by cognition, not by the force of logic, not by picking out the brains of the others and making a big book, as is the fashion in modern times, not even as I do, by taking up one of the writings and making a long lecture, but by patient investigation and discovery they found out the truth. It is essential in orthodox practice, and so it must be always. Religion is over a practical science, and never was nor will be a theological science, religion. It is practical first and knowledge afterwards. The idea that souls come back is already there. Those persons who do good work with the idea of a result get it, but the result is not permanent. They get the idea of causation very beautifully put forward, that the effect is only commensurate with the cause. As the cause is, so the effect will be. The cause being finite, the effect must be finite. If the cause is eternal, the effect can be eternal. But all these causes, doing good work and all other things, are only finite causes, and as such cannot produce infinite result. So we have come to the other side of the question. As there cannot be any eternal heaven, on the same grounds there cannot be eternal hell. So, but there is a third course. It's very important. He is saying that the third course, which applies to those who have known the truth, to those who have realized it, this is the only way to get beyond all this veil of Maya, to realize that truth is, what is this truth? And the Upanishads indicate that what is meant by realizing this truth. Swami is saying, it means recognizing neither good nor bad, but knowing all is as coming from the self. Self is everything. It means denying the universe, shutting your eyes to it, seeing the Lord in hell as well as in heaven, seeing the Lord in death as well as life. This is a line of thought in the passage Swami is saying that I have to read to you. The earth is a symbol of the Lord, the sky is the Lord, the place we fill is the Lord, everything is Brahman. And this is to be seen, realized, not simply talked or thought about. We can see at its logic and consequence that when the soul has realized that everything is full of Lord, there is a Brahman, it will not care whether it goes to heaven or hell or anywhere else. Whether it be born again on this earth or heaven, the things have ceased to have any meaning to all this real. Because every place is the same. Every place is the temple of the Lord. Every place has become holy, and the presence of the Lord is all that it seems in heaven or hell or anywhere else. Neither good nor bad, neither life nor death, only the one infinite Brahman exists. So, according to Vedanta, when a man has arrived at this perception, he has become free, and he is only the man who is fit to live in this world. Others are not. The man who sees evil, how can live in this world? His life is a mass of misery. The man who sees dangers, his life is a misery. The man who sees death, his life is a misery. That man alone can live in this world. He alone can say, I enjoy this life and I am happy in this life. Who has seen the truth? And that truth is in everything. By the by, I may tell you that the idea of hell does not occur in the Vedas anywhere. It comes with the Puranas much later. Swami is saying, the worst punishment according to the Vedas is coming back to the earth, having another chance in this world. From the very first we see the ideas taking the impersonal turn. The ideas of punishment and reward are very material, and they are only concerned with the idea of a human God who loves one and hates another, just as we do. Punishment and reward are only admissible with the existence of such a God. Swamiji here slowly coming back from the personal God to impersonal God. So Swami is saying even people who thought to be great thinkers get disgusted at the ideas of a personal God. But to me, it seems so absurd to think of God as an embodied man. Which is the higher idea? A living God or a dead God? A God whom nobody sees, nobody knows, or a God known? The impersonal God is a living God, a principle. The difference between personal and impersonal is this. Swami is giving the beautiful explanation that the personal is only a man, and the impersonal idea is that he is the angel, the man, the animal, and he has something more which cannot see, because impersonality includes all personalities. It is the sum total of everything in the universe, and infinitely more besides. As the one fire coming into the world is manifesting itself in so many forms, and yet is infinitely more besides, so is the impersonal. So we want to worship a living God. Swami is saying, I have seen nothing but God all my life, nor have you. To see this chair, you see first God, then the chair through him. Is everything saying, I am? The moment you feel I am, you are conscious of existence. Where shall you go to find God if we cannot see him in our own hearts? So Swami is bring that concept to your heart, saying. Of course, the impersonal idea is very destructive, Swami is saying, beautifully. It takes away all the trade from the priests, churches and temples. In India, there is a famine now. At that point of time, he is talking. But there are temples, in each one of which there are jewels worth a king's ransom. If the priest taught this impersonal idea to the people, the occupation would be gone. Yet, we will have to teach it unselfishly, without priestcraft. You are God and so am I. Who obeys whom? Who worships whom? You are the highest temple of God. I would rather worship you than any temple, image or Bible. Why are some people so contracted in their thought? They are like fish slipping through our fingers. They say they are hard-headed practical men. Very good. But what is more practical than worshipping here? Worshipping you. I see you, feel you, I know you are God. The Mohammedan says there is no God but Allah. Vedanta says there is nothing then that is not God. It may frighten many of you, but you will understand it by degrees. The living God is within you, and you are building churches and temples and mosques and other things and believing all sorts of imaginary nonsense. The only God to worship is a human soul in the human body. Of course, all animals are temples too, but man is highest. The Taj Mahal of temple. Swami is giving beautiful practical examples. If I cannot worship in that, no other temple will be of any advantage. So, this way, that moment I am free from bondage, everything that binds vanishes and I am free. This is the most practical of all. This is the most practical of all our worship. It has nothing to do with the theorizing and speculation, yet it frightens many, because we have been told by grandfathers that the God is there somewhere in heaven, and that is most important. These theories are only theories. This is practically according to them, but our ideas are impractical. So that is not correct. No doubt the Vedanta says that each one must have his own path, but the path is not the goal. The worship of a God in heaven and all these things are not bad, but they are only steps towards the truth and not the truth itself. This is an important aspect of that. We should not worry much about the path. We should worry about the object, the last point where we are supposed to see. As Vedanta says at every point, my friend, him whom you are worshipping as an unknown and are seeking for throughout the universe has been with you all the time. You are living through him, and he is the eternal witness of the universe. He whom all the Vedas worship, nay more, he who is always present in the eternal eye, he existing, the whole universe exists. He is the light and the life of the universe. If the eye were not in you, you would not see the sun. Everything would be dark mess. He shining, you see the world. One question is generally asked, and it is this, that this may lead to a tremendous amount of difficulty. Every one of us will think, I am God, and whatever I do or think must be good, for God can do no evil. In the first place, even taking this danger of his misrepresentation for granted, can it be proved that on the other side of the same danger does not exist? They have been worshipping a God in heaven separate from them, and whom they are much afraid. They have been born as shaking with fear, and all their life they will go on shaking. Has the world been much better by this? Those who have understood and worshipped the personal God, and those who have understood and worshipped an impersonal God, on which side have been the great workers of the world, gigantic workers, gigantic mental powers, more powers? Certainly on the impersonal God. How can you expect morality to be developed through fear? It can never be. So he's saying, when one sees another, where one hears another, that is Maya. When one does not see another, when one does not hear another, when everything has become the Atman, who sees whom? Who perceives whom? It is all I, it's all he, and it's all at the same time. The soul has become pure. Then and then alone we understand that what love is. Love cannot come through fear. Its basis is freedom. When we really begin to love the world, then we understand what is meant by brotherhood or mankind and not before. So it is not right to say that impersonal idea will lead to a tremendous amount of evil in this world, or as if the other doctrine have never lent itself to works of evil. My God is the greatest God, and let us decide it by free fight. That is the outcome of dualism all over the world. Come on into this broad open daylight. Come out from the little narrow paths. And how can the infinite soul rest content to live and die in small ruts? Come out into the universe of light. Everything in the universe is yours. Stretch out your arms and embrace it with love. If you ever felt you wanted to do that, you have felt God. Swami is giving a beautiful example from Buddha's life, and it's a very practical. Let's see what he's saying. He's saying that from the sermon of Buddha, how he sent a thought of love towards the south, north, east, west, and everywhere, above and below, until the whole universe was filled with love, so grand, so great, so infinite. When you have that feeling, you have true personality. The whole universe is one person. Let go of the little things. Give up the small for the infinite. Give the small enjoyments for infinite bliss. It is all yours. For the impersonal includes the personal. So God is personal and impersonal at the same time. And the man, the infinite, impersonal man, is manifesting himself as person. We, the infinite, have limited ourselves, as it were, into small parts. Vedanta says that infinite is our true nature. It will never vanish. It will abide forever. But we are limiting ourselves by our own karma, which are like a chain around our necks that has dragged us into the limitation. Break that chain, be free. Trample law under your feet. There is no law in human nature. There is no destiny, no fate. How can there be law in infinity? Freedom is its watchword. Freedom is its nature, its birthright. Be free. And then you have any numbers of personalities you like. Then we will play like the actor who comes from the stage and plays the part of a beggar. Contrast him with the actual beggar walking in the streets. The scene is perhaps the same in both cases. The words are perhaps the same, but yet what difference? The one enjoys his beggary while the other is suffering misery from it. And what makes the difference? The other actor who is begging is not true, but that he has assumed it for play, while the real beggar thinks that, oh my God, it is his too familiar state, and that he has to bear it whether he likes it or not. This is a law. So long as we have no knowledge of our real nature, we are beggars, jostled about by every force in nature, and made slaves of by everything in nature. We cry all over the world for help, but help never comes to us. We cry imaginary beings, and yet it never comes. But still we hope help will come, and thus in weeping, wailing, hoping, one life is past, and the same play goes on and on and on for every life. So Swami is saying, be free. Hope for nothing from anyone. I am sure if you look back upon your lives, you will find that you were always vainly trying to get help from others, which never came. All the help that has come was from within yourselves. This is the important aspect of practical Vedanta. You only had the fruits of what you yourselves worked for, and yet you are strangely hoping all the time for help. A rich man's pearl is always full, but if you notice, you do not find the same people there. The visitors are always hoping that they will get something from those wealthy men, but they never do. So are our lives spent in hoping, and hoping, which never comes to an end. Give up hope, says the Vedanta. Why should you hope? You have everything. Say you are everything. What are you hoping for? If a king goes mad and runs about trying to find the king of his country, he will never find him because he is the king himself. That's the important part. So you have all these mad pursuits, and then play your part in the universe as an actor on the stage. The whole vision is changed, Instead of an eternal prison, this world has become a playground. Instead of a land of competition, this land of bliss, where there is perpetual spring. Flowers bloom and butterflies flit about. This world becomes heaven, which formerly was hell. To the eye of the bound, it is a tremendous place of torment, but to the eyes of the free, it is a quite otherwise. This one life is a universal life. Heaven, sun, all those places are here. All the gods are here, the prototypes of the main. The gods did not create man after their type, but man created gods. And here are the prototypes. Here is the Indra, here is the Varuna, and all the gods of the universe. We have been projecting our little doubles. And we are the origins of these gods. We are the real, the only gods to be worshipped. This is the view of the Vedanta, and this is the practicality. When we have become free, we need not go mad and throw up society and rush off to die in the forest or the cave. We shall remain where we are, only we shall understand the whole thing. That is the crux of this practical Vedanta. No need to run and quit on all these things. The same phenomenon will remain, but with a new meaning. We do not know the world yet. It is only through freedom that we see what it is and understand its nature. We shall see them, this so-called law or fate or destiny, occupied only an infinitesimal part of our nature. It is only one side, but on the other side there was freedom all the time. We do not know that's why this is happening. Within ourselves is this eternal voice speaking of the eternal freedom. Its music is eternally going on. Part of this music of the soul has become the earth, the law, the universe, but it is always ours and always will be. In one word, the ideal of Vedanta is to know man as he really is, and this is its message, that if you cannot worship your brother man, the manifested God, how can you worship a God who is unmanifested? Do you remember what the Bible says? If you cannot love your brother whom you have seen, how can you love God whom you have not seen? Unquote. If you cannot see God in human face, how can you see him in the clouds or images made of dull, dead matter or in mere fictitious stories of our brain? I shall call you religious from the day you begin to see God in men and women. Whatever comes to you is but the Lord, the Eternal, the Blessed One, appearing to us in various forms as a father, mother, friend, and child. They are our own soul playing with us. As our human relationship can thus be made divine, so our relationship with God may take any of these forms, and we can look upon Him as our mother, father, and everything. Calling God mother is the highest ideal than calling father. And to call Him friend is still higher, but the highest is to regard Him as the beloved. The highest point of all is to see no difference between lover and beloved. You may remember perhaps the old Persian story of how a lover came and knocked at the door of the beloved and was asked, "Who are you?" He answered, "It is I." And there is no response. A second time he came and exclaimed, "I am here," but the door was not opened. The third time he came and the voice asked him from inside, "Who is there?" He replied, "I am thyself, my beloved," and the door opened. So is the relation between God and ourselves. He is in everything, He is everything. He is every man and woman in this blissful living God. Who says God is unknown? Who says He is the searched after? We have found God eternally. We have been living in Him eternally. Every year He is currently known, eternally worshipped. Then comes another idea. The other form of worship are not errors. This is one of the great points to be remembered, that those who worship God through creation, ceremonials and forms, however crude you may think them to be, are not in error. It is the journey from truth to truth, from lower truth to higher truth. Darkness is light to less light. Evil is less good. Impurity is less purity. It must always be borne in mind that we should see others with eyes of love and with sympathy, knowing that they are going along the same path that we have trodden already. If you are free, you must know that all will be sooner or later. And if you are free, how can you see the impermanent? If you are really pure, how do you see the impure? For what is within is without. We cannot see impurity without having it inside ourselves. This is the practical side of Vedanta. And Swami is saying, I hope that we shall all try to carry it into our lives. Our whole life here is carry into this practice. But the great one point is we gain is that we shall work with the satisfaction, contentment instead of discontent and dissatisfaction. For we know that truth is within us. We have it as our birthright, and we have only to manifest it and make it tangible. That is a practical Vedanta. In a wonderful way, Swamiji is giving all the directions and means to understand this Vedanta aspect. We'll see in the next part, the Practical Vedanta 3, how is further explaining this aspect. Hari Om Tat Sat. Salutation to Swamiji. Thank you.